in psychology, there's a concept of the persona, which I actually looked it up, and it's Carl Jung came up with this one. So the persona, the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, was the social face the individual presented to the world, a kind of mask designed on the one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and on the other to conceal the true nature of the individual.
Like if persona is construed as meaning same as personality, and it sounds like it does, the question arises, do we need to have a persona? Is that a good thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody would say, well, of course everyone does. It's like, well, of course I would call that the self, which is different. And what is the difference?
Yeah.
The difference is just the self is is neutral, meaning it's not informed by the wound and the whole history, right? So that's a big difference. So yeah, in the world, it's expected that they even say that phrase like, "Oh, he's got a good personality," right? Which to us sounds crazy, but um, yeah, he's got a big personality or a and I know they're using it in a slightly broader, different way, but still, yeah. So I think the question is, is it a good thing to have a personality? You could have, for example, you could be in that situation that's awkward because people are perhaps projecting on you a lot. And you could have a personality that was kind of, say, let's say, egotistical, puffed up, and it would bounce all that off, and it would work in a way because you wouldn't be vulnerable. You would think it was just them, and so I suppose that's what people mean when the personality is working well. It's sort of defending you well. You're not at the whims and the kind of judgments of others so much in that scenario with that kind of personality. So you could say, "Oh yeah, that's good. That works." But we're looking sort of deeper than that here. So it may work and it may protect you from things, but we're looking at, well, what can you be the self, what you find yourself to be, your natural state and whatever expression that takes at the moment? Can you be that in the world with whoever's out there, whatever difficult personalities, whatever they're projecting on you? That's what's interesting to me. That's what this is about. Rather than I've got a good mask which I'm going to put on, which deflects, because that's a kind of doing. It's okay and it has a job, but it's not really the subject we're talking about here. So then the next thing is like, well, what is that? Is that okay? Is that even possible? What does it mean that you go out into the world and you are without the protection of that personality, but you are you are still protected in a way. Okay, so what are you protected by? I want to say you're protected by your own naturalness, if that makes sense. It's like if you are intrinsically in touch with who who you are beyond personality, then your need for validation or your being hooked into the judgments and opinions of those out there, well, it's certainly very different. I mean, you don't really, it's not your main goal. I mean, of course, it's nice if people like you and you get on. Of course, that is good and you like that. But it's not like a need, it's not like a desire, it's not a kind of addiction to produce that in others. Because before that, there's this kind of okayness with it's what we're really talking about is your original relationship to life. Really, that's the subject here, I think. If if you're within that, you're just already okay, kind of, before what happens out there with people. And I'm not saying things can't get shown up. There may be stuff left in your personality that an event happens and it shows it up. That's all fine. But we're talking about, the general thing that happens, the general kind of outcome. So, then the question is, well, how do you have that? How do you find that? And that's what we're doing. That's what we're talking about every week here.
I still remember when I was in college, my first encounter with Zen Buddhism was this Zen priest, Louis Nordstrom, came and gave a talk, and he came to the front of the room and he said, "I don't know who I am." And I was hooked. I was like, yeah, like he said with such confidence, he said, "I don't know who I am." And I think I feel the same way now. I don't know who I am, but it's like what I hear you saying is to not know who you are and have that be powerful and be like that's yeah. But it tends to more be I don't know who I am. I don't know how to be with people. So I'm like, how do I? Yeah. So I'm hearing this because I kind of like the solution is I need to build this persona, this clear interface to have with people so that they're comfortable.
To know who you are, doesn't that mean someone who knows who they are means they are identified with that? I think, right? It's someone who has a strong personality. I don't. Who can we think of? I mean, Trump thinks that's who he is, and so that gives you a kind of, it gives you kind of strength in a certainty, and it's interesting the difference because in this you don't have that identification. You don't have this thing you don't have this delusion, and it is a delusion that you are Donald Trump or I am whoever and I am this. You've seen through that. So there's no security coming from that. But there is a certainty that comes from what I've just said, the original relationship to life.